Good evening. Welcome to the big story. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho. And I'm Sean Yao.
Tonight's big story is at least 382,000 people, or close to 78,000 families, have been affected so far by severe tropical storm Christine. And these are only initial figures. Christine gains strength as it moves up to northern Luzon.
Residents of the Bicol region were caught off guard by Christine's heavy downpour, and the floods that came after turned streets into rivers. Former Vice President Leni Robredo pleads urgently for rubber boats.
And at the Senate today, alleged victims of Apollo Quiboloy detailed the sexual and physical abuse they experienced at the hands of the preacher. One witness also said they exploited children to raise money.
We kick off tonight on a somber note as Tropical Storm Christine, which was upgraded to severe tropical storm category just this afternoon, continues to batter the country. In a report earlier today, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, said over 382,000 individuals have already been affected by the storm, whose international name is Trami. That's equivalent to almost 78,000 families, mostly in Bicol, Western Visayas, Eastern Visayas, and the Zamboanga Peninsula. More than 12,000 families have been moved to evacuation centers. These numbers are expected to rise given Christine is still rearing its head. The center of the storm is expected to make landfall in Isabella province tonight. Pagasa has already issued a warning that due to Christine's vast cloud bands, heavy to torrential rains will fall in northern Luzon provinces, specifically Aurora and Quezon, while moderate to heavy rains will fall on Metro Manila and the rest of mainland Luzon and northern Mimaropa starting tonight.
By tomorrow morning, heavy rain is forecast over regions 1, 2, and 3, including Metro Manila. That will last until tomorrow afternoon. Heavy rains, however, will persist over Zambales, Tarlac, and Pampanga until Thursday evening. Serious flooding and landslides are expected in many areas with heavy rainfall warnings. Metro Manila, northern and central Luzon, and most of Bicol and Calabarzon are still under tropical cyclone wind signal number 2. Wind signal number 1, meanwhile, is in effect over the rest of mainland Luzon, Batanes, Mindoro, Marinduque, Romblon, Calamian Islands, Masbate, Western Visayas, northern Negros, northern and central Cebu, Bohol, Eastern Visayas, Dinagat Islands, and Surigao del Norte.
The center of Tropical Storm Christine is forecast to exit over Pangasinan tomorrow afternoon and head out over the West Philippine Sea on Friday. At a situation briefing earlier, President Bongbong Marcos said that all AFP units in Central Philippines are on standby to help for when Christine makes landfall up north tonight.
The AFP is also continuing to monitor the situation so that we will be able to activate the EDCA sites which were put there specifically for this purpose.
The president also said that help is on the way for the Bicol region after former Vice President Leni Robredo made an urgent plea for more rubber boats and rescue trucks.
As soon as we can get in, as soon as makapasok kami, we will be doing that, and we are now beginning to marshal our assets, like for example rubber boats. Hanggang Mindanao kukunin na muna namin at dadali namin dito sa area na pangangailangan. We just got that report from Kamsur that half the province is underwater because they live in that the basin within Albay and Kamsur. Kaya yun ang talagang tinatamaan lagi ng baha.
Indeed, severe tropical storm Christine has already triggered massive flooding in the Bicol region yesterday. Floodwaters turned streets into raging rivers and villages into lakes. Gio Robles has that report.
As floodwaters began to rise after Tropical Storm Christine dumped torrential rains over the Bicol region, residents took to social media to ask for help. Many were stranded on rooftops or on any high ground they could find. The provinces of Albay, Camarines Sur, and Naga City were among the worst hit.
Ayan o. Sa may kalsada, may namamangka. Kung gaano kalalim ang tubig sa amin.
Severe flooding began yesterday afternoon with streets flooding knee-deep in a short amount of time. As the rains continued, rivers began to overflow. Floods suddenly reached waist, then chest deep. And finally, the surging water swept away cars and even entire homes. Entire villages turned into lakes. The extent of the flooding and the number of residents who needed rescue raised alarms in affected provinces. And as night came, the situation in Naga City became critical. Roads were submerged in chest-deep water. While homes and business establishments were completely inundated, even this mall was not spared. Former Vice President Leni Robredo led calls for help, asking for boats, as the city's rescue trucks were rendered useless due to the floods. Residents said this was the worst flooding they've seen in decades, and they were all caught off guard.
Ngayon lang po talaga tumaas ng ganito yung tubig. Hindi po kami umaasa na ganito talaga taas yung tubig.
Sa tagal ko pong naninirahan po dito sa Naga, ito talaga po yung pinaka-worst experience po siya.
This morning, the extent of the flooding and damage became evident. Despite still flooded streets, residents took the time to help each other. In Albay, these rice fields in Libon town are now covered in thick mud. In Barangay Bonbon, houses remain submerged. In Ginobatan, damaged vehicles lined roads which are also now covered in mud and rocks from Mayon volcano. In Rapu-Rapu, several houses were damaged from a landslide. Houses in Pulangi were also damaged by mud flows. An initial report from Police Regional Office Bicol set the casualties with 3 dead and 6 injured. For News 5, Gio Robles, We're One News.
It was the worst flooding to hit the Bicol region in decades. And with severe tropical storm Christine still making its way through northern Luzon, the worry is we haven't seen the worst of it. For updates, let us bring in a News 5's Brian Basa, who joins us live from Pag-asa. Magandang gabi sa'yo, Brian. Brian, first question.
Magandang gabi, Gretchen. Tulad nga nung, yes.
First question for us, taking a look at the eye of severe tropical storm Christine. We see it over in northeastern Luzon near Isabella. Tell us what caused the near record rainfall over in Bicol yesterday.
Yes, Gretchen, there are several factors that can shape how a storm makes an impact on a certain area. Good that you mentioned Bicol region. A few days ago, the storm was a little farther from land. So, dito siya, no? This is how Pag-asa explains it to us. You see this area marked in red? That's what Pag-asa calls a rain band. Essentially, they are clouds that are encircling a storm, and these clouds bring rains over a certain area. So, again, kung dito yung Christine, no, it wasn't a severe tropical storm back then, just a few days ago. Andito siya. So nakatutok yung rain bands, the clouds are pointed towards Bicol region. And that is the reason why rains were tremendous over that area. Now another factor, and this was mentioned by our Chief of Correspondence, Ed Lingao, the topography of the Bicol region, it's a basin, meaning it's encircled by ridges, mountains, high, tall structures. And as we know, when storms hit tall structures, and this is a bit scientific, but please bear with me on this one, the clouds tend to compress. And when they compress, they become heavy. And when they get heavy, they fall down as rain. So, yun yung dahilan kung bakit sobrang lala ng pag-ulan sa Bicol. At the same time, the way Bicol is formed, again, mountains on the edges of that region, the low-lying areas are right smack in the middle. So Naga City, for example, we saw the impact of that of the storm there, the flooding, lampas tao, hindi ba? It's because it's right at the foot of the mountain. So if there's a mountain, tapos andito ang Naga City, pagbagsak ng ulan, diretso sa low-lying area. And then, the same goes for other areas kasi nga, napapaligiran sila ng ridges or ng bundok. And that is the reason why Bicol region in particular experienced that kind of tremendous rain brought about by now severe tropical storm Christine.
Brian, is
Gretchen?
the formation of these rain bands unusual? Because we hear residents saying that they haven't experienced this kind of flooding in 30 years. They're used to dealing with typhoons, but not this kind of flooding. Is it unusual, or is it just the trajectory of this specific tropical storm?
We spoke to Pagasa earlier, Gretchen. I spoke particularly to Weather Division OIC, Chris Perez. And he told me na the way the clouds formed, good that you observed that also, na makapal ang rain bands here. Also a reason, by the way, kung bakit it's not just Bicol region that has experienced rains, but also Luzon, Visayas, and parts of Mindanao. It's because merong hangin kasi rito that makes it unfavorable for clouds to form over this area. So, syempre, di ba, pag umihip ka, for example, if umihip ka, the tendency for example, if there's a smoke in front of you, the tendency is for you to blow it away. So, parang ganun yung nangyayari dito. Dahil may hangin dito, the tendency is for the clouds to proceed to this area, and hindi na masyadong umiihip kasi raw yung hanging habagat. That's why mas kayang mag-form ng clouds over this area. And that is the reason kung bakit dito makapal yung rain bands, and again, eventually nga, the rains over Bicol region. Gretchen?
We do know that Christine is just about to hit landfall Wednesday evening rather. So are we expecting the same amount of rainfall in other provinces affected by Christine, affected by those rain bands that you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. If we're going to take on this question from a more scientific approach, Pagasa says it's on a case-to-case basis. That's why it's difficult sometimes to compare. For example, kung ito yung nangyari sa Bicol region, maaaring ganito rin ang mangyari sa Isabella. It might not be the case, again, depending on how the clouds form, and second, the topography, which is already there. I mean, how the mountains are formed, how the low-lying areas are formed. So it will affect how the storm will make an impact particularly on Isabella when it makes landfall either tonight or tomorrow. But this we are sure of. So these are the areas that Pagasa says will experience heavy rainfall today. So intense torrential rains are expected over Apayao, Aurora, Quezon. Papansin nyo, di ba? Nakapaligid sa Isabela. Di ba? And then we have heavy to intense rains over the rest of Cagayan Valley, the rest of Cordillera region, Ilocos region, the rest of Central Luzon, Rizal, Camarines Norte. Ito medyo malayo na to, no? But again, because of the thickness of the storm, the radius, mas maraming lugar ang nakararanas ng pag-ulan. And so that's why also mahaba yung listahan dun sa mga lugar which may experience moderate to heavy rains today. The rest of Calabarzon, Metro Manila, Mindoro Island, that's Occidental and Oriental Mindoro, Marinduque, Romblon, Calamian Islands, Camarines Sur, Catanduanes, Masbate, Albay, Sorsogon, and Western Visayas. For tomorrow, since we are expecting the storm to move, Pagasa is expecting the storm to move somehow, intense torrential rains are expected over Pangasinan, Zambales, and La Union. Heavy to intense rains over the rest of Ilocos region, Cordillera region, and Bataan, and moderate to heavy rains in Cagayan Valley, Tarlac, Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, Bulacan, Metro Manila, Cavite, Batangas, Occidental Mindoro. Now, all these areas are based on Pagasa's last advisory at 4 p.m. We are expecting an updated bulletin from them anytime now. And I guess this is the reason why local government units actually it's not I guess, because this is from Pagasa, that local governments must already prepare because the Weather Bureau is doing its part on advising people about the possible or impending effects of severe tropical storm Christine. Back to you.
Kung yung ibang bagyo hinihila yung habagat, itong bagyong ito hinihila yung mga rain bands that you're talking about. And if one thing is for sure, we have to brace for the heavy rains tomorrow. Thank you so much for that report. Reporting to us from Pag-asa, News 5's Brian Basa.
As we all know, Albay is now under a state of calamity because of severe tropical storm Christine. Let's now check in on the province with Acting Governor Glenda Bungao. Governor Glenda, good evening. Maraming salamat and welcome to the big story.
Good evening, Liz.
Okay, first question, Governor, kamusta no yung situation with the flooding and kamusta yung lagay ng panahon right now? We understand that Pag-asa, as per their 5 p.m. bulletin, has warned of moderate to heavy rains in your area to persist until tonight.
Maganda yung naging panahon sa araw na to since this morning medyo minsan umuulan pero naging okay naman po talaga ang panahon. But during the typhoon, yun na siguro ang pwede namin masabi na record-breaking pagdating po sa buhos ng ulan. Sabi it was equivalent to 2 months of rain na binuhos lang po in 24 hours. Imagine. So ang tubig po ay equivalent sa 2 buwan na pag-ulan na binuhos lang po kagabi within 24 hours. So ganun po katindi ang baha dito po sa Albay.
Okay, I understand the worst amount of rainfall or the most amount of rainfall in 54 years since November of 1969. Napakatagal.
69.
Yes.
Right. Oo.
Okay. So last night and all of today, we've been seeing all these videos on social media. Talaga pong nakakabahala. One of the most, pressing matters is trying to reach those who need to be rescued. How are we doing on that? Dumating na po ba yung mga rubber boats?
Yes, yun ang pinakamahirap last night na meron na mga ipinapadalang trucks na pwedeng pumunta doon. But ang problema, sobra ng taas ng tubig na hindi na din sila makarating sa dapat na saklolohan. So yun ang naging problema talaga. And kaliwat kanan. But I think ang provincial government of Albay ay hindi po nagkulang because at 12 noon, early as 12 noon yesterday, talagang meron na tayong advisory na magkakaroon tayo ng evacuation para before 5 p.m. lahat ng mga taong maaapektuhan ay nasa evacuation center na o nasa lugar na safe na po sila. But since nasa signal number 1 lang tayo, medyo siguro nagkampante ang mga tao and yung mga bahang o mga lugar na binaha, usually naman kasi hindi sila binabaha nung mga nagdaang pag-ulan o pagbagyo, iba talaga yung dinalang tubig baha ng bagyong ito. So nagulat po ang lahat.
Governor, do you have any indication how many more are needing rescues? How many households need to be rescued at this point?
Right now kasi 32,641 families, equivalent to 100,000 individuals. Currently, nasa evacuation centers na po ito. Ito yung mga rescue from heavy flooding, sa landslide, and yung potential lahar flow. So, nandyan na sila sa evacuation center, kaya okay na naman ang sitwasyon ngayon. This early morning kanina, yung mga hindi na rescue na nasa bubong ay yun ang una talagang sinaklolohan ng mga rescuers natin.
So, I take it to mean you don't need rubber boats anymore at this point. Na-rescue na lahat ng kailangan i-rescue.
Yes, right now. But dun kasi sa 3rd District of Albay, may mga pangangailangan pa din sila. But nandun lahat ng mga gamit ngayon. All the assets of the provincial government of Albay ay nandun naman at sumasaklolo sa lahat ng mga nangangailangan.
Governor, meron po tayong 3 barangay na may binababalita ang may lahar, flow. Tama po ba
Yes.
yun? At namomonitor po ba natin kung dumadagdag pa yung bilang na yun?
Oo, namo-monitor naman natin, but more than yung lahar flow talaga kanina, though ayoko sanang banggitin pa kasi mas dun ako sa official report lang talaga, but mga few hours ago parang may nag-landslide daw doon po sa 3rd District of Albay, pero siguro ang details maya-maya ko pa makukuha.
Okay. Kayo po ay may zero casualty goal during disasters. In fact, Albay has been hailed as for having one of the highly effective disaster risk response management programs. Are you still in keeping with that? Kamusta po yung casualty numbers? Or is this an extraordinary event that we're talking about since it's a record rainfall event also?
Yes, we all hope for a zero casualty, pero sa ngayon yung hawak ko na report, parang this afternoon, zero pa. Pero may mga naririnig na tayo na meron ng mga casualties, may mga missing. So siguro because right now talagang lahat nakatutok sa rescue and immediate response. Kaya medyo nahihirapan kaming kunin yung mga datas na kagaya ng mga ganito, yung mga damages and all. But tomorrow siguro mas papasok na po yung mga datas natin.
Okay, final question, Governor. Ano po yung kailangan nyo? We understand that DSWD has pre-positioned food packs already, as well as, of course, nandyan din po, no? At least sa tabi ninyo, sa may naga, nandun po yung angat buhay ni former Vice President Leni Robredo. Kamusta naman po ang Albay in terms of support from the national government as well as from civil service organizations?
Nako, ngayon pa lang gusto namin magpasalamat sa national agencies and even international organizations. Talagang nag-express sila ng commitment nila to assist the province of Albay. As of now, ang mga pangangailangan, yung mga immediate needs ngayon, mga food packs na binibigay na din naman, mga medicines, yung kaninang umaga, yung mga hindi na rescue, nung gabi, yung mga nasa bubong, ang agad-agad yung lamig na naranasan nila. So agad-agad yun ang mga na-rescue. Pero meron din tayong nabalitaan na medyo casualty pagdating na nakaranas po ng sobrang lamig. May isang casualty, meron din pong nakagat ng ahas, may mga ganyan, at meron din inatake sa puso. But still, mas gusto ko pong nasa ano na siya, report na talaga na pwedeng ibigay sa atin, maybe tomorrow.
Wait, Governor, you said 32,641 families at the evacuation centers, equivalent to more than 100,000 individuals. Could you give us a better sense of what the situation is like in the evacuation centers? Okay naman po ba sila doon?
Sa ngayon, okay naman sila because yung mga LGUs naman natin, sila ang unang mga nagbigay ng mga pangangailangan nila. And ang probinsya ng Albay ngayon, yung mga medicines, hindi lang sa evacuation center, but sa ating mga rural health units, sa ating mga city health offices, sa mga hospitals, ay ngayon ay bibigyan na natin sila ng kanilang mga medical needs and nakakapag-distribute na tayo ng essential medicines.
Governor, how are the roads? Are there some roads that are impassable? How is water supply doing?
Okay. Yung provincial engineering office nag-deployed ng teams for clearing operations, working in coordination with the Department of Public Works and Highways pagdating po sa clearing operations. Kaya wala na masyadong mga hindi passable. Lahat naman except for 3 municipalities in the 3rd District of Albay, Libon, Uwas, Pulangi, na medyo until now nandun pa rin yung clearing operations. And dito din sa 1st District, sa bayan po ng Tiwi. But so far, okay naman. May mga wala pa rin kuryente and may mga wala pa rin tubig. Pero dito po sa 2nd Distrito ng Albay ay medyo okay na naman ang kalagayan natin dito.
That's very, very good to know that you're safe and sound, and we hope it stays that way. In the meantime, thank you so much for giving time to talk to us here on The Big Story, Albay Acting Governor Glenda Bongao.
The center of severe tropical storm Christine is expected to make landfall around this time in Isabella province. Let's get out to News 5's Elaine Fulgencio, who's already been stationed in Ilagan in the province of Isabella. Elaine, magandang gabi. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Sean. Yes, I can hear you. Good evening.
Okay. How is the situation over there in Isabella as early as now? Have the rain started falling heavily?
Sean, the province of Isabella is now bracing for severe tropical storm Christine, and the two spillway gates of Nagat Dam have been opened to gradually release water in preparation for Bagyong Christine. And around 6 p.m. Sean, when the rain began, and we've experienced intermittent heavy downpours along with strong winds here in Isabella.
Elaine, just to clarify, rains are just intermittent but strong, and the wind is, you can feel the wind, meaning because when we talk about typhoons, it's usually a measure of how strong the winds are.
Yes, Sean. Actually, as of 6 p.m. kanina, when the rain started, we've experienced heavy downpours and at the moment, as of this time, we can feel yung strong winds. You can see the trees, hanging because of the strong winds, and yung pag-ulan is talagang pabugsubugso as of now.
Okay, nabanggit mo nga yung preemptive evacuations and preparations na ginagawa ng LGU dyan. How many people have they evacuated or managed to evacuate, and meron pa bang mga difficulties in terms of evacuation?
Preemptive evacuations are still ongoing, and especially yung mga residents visiting to low-lying areas. And all rescue equipment has been positioned, and rescuers have been strategically deployed. And as of now, talagang continuous din yung monitoring ng Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office tungkol dito sa bilang ng mga residents na ini-evacuate na nila tonight.
Okay, kompleto naman ang mga supplies, pre-positioned food packs, etc.
Yes, Sean, the Isabella provincial government said that food packs are also ready and in place.
Alright, maraming salamat at iba yung pag-ingat dyan. News 5's Elaine Fulgencio reporting to us live from Ilagan in Isabela. Mag-ingat kayo, Elaine. Pausing for a quick break, but still to come. Doomsday preacher Apollo Quiboloy comes face-to-face with his accusers. Women he allegedly abused sexually and physically for years. All the details next. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News. Severe tropical storm Christine did not stop the Senate committee, chaired by Senator Risa Ontiveros, from holding its much-anticipated hearing on the alleged crimes of Pastor Apollo Kibuloy, with him there in the flesh. The victims detailed years of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse at the hands of the preacher. Children were also allegedly exploited to raise money for the church. Mayan Los Baños has the sordid details.
The storm was raging outside, but that didn't stop the Senate Committee on Women and Children's hearing on the alleged abuses of Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder Apollo Kibuloy. He arrived in the Senate past 9 a.m. without a bulletproof vest, but surrounded by a handful of police and the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms. At the session hall, Kibuloy came face-to-face with his alleged victims, including Teresita Valdeweza, a former member and volunteer worker of KOJC. Valdeweza says she was 17 years old, a minor, when she joined KOJC in 1980, leaving behind family and friends. She said at that time she truly believed she was working alongside a man appointed by God. But one day, Kibuloy allegedly summoned Valdeweza, who was then instructed to proceed to his hotel room and sleep next to him.
Absolute obedience was a must. We needed to have an unquestioned loyalty and reverence toward him. Sleeping beside a man I believed to be chosen by God was for me then a great privilege. Without a word, after turning off the light, he embraced me, undressed me, and violated me with his lustful act, and left me in shock and speechless. He then said, "This is the fulfillment of God's revelation." He explained that God had revealed to him that I was to partake in God's life through him by surrendering my body, soul, and spirit. He also mentioned that other girls would go through him in a similar manner. His words were strange, but I was too shocked to respond.
Kibuloy allegedly told Valdeweza she will be part of God's life by surrendering her body and soul. After that, Valdeweza became part of the KOJC's inner circle. She said she was promoted to several high positions, including National Logistics Coordinator and Luzon Area Administrator. Valdeweza was also in charge of organizing fundraising activities for the church, such as caroling and selling of rice delicacies or kakanin during Christmas. She had a quota of 10 to 15 million pesos just for the month of December. To hit that, they had to exploit children.
We recruited and trafficked our young people from Mindanao and Visayas to carol in the provinces of Luzon and in the national capital region cities. Marami pong estudyante na Nobyembre pa lang kailangan nang mag-absent sa paralan at ang iba hindi na nakabalik sa pag-aaral dahil inuna ang simbahan, inuna ang pagcaroling, inuna ang paghanap ng pera. But nobody questioned. Naghirap ang maraming workers at members sa pagkaroling at pagsulisit sa bawat tao sa lahat ng dako dito sa ating bansa. May namatay, may na-aksidente, may nakulong, may mga na-rape pa na hindi na na-report dahil baka hindi paniwalaan.
She says no one ever dared question where the money went, but KOJC members were instructed to live a simple life. But when Valdeweza and other members of Kibuloy's inner circle traveled to the U.S., all the group's teachings about simplicity flew out the window.
I witnessed the double standard life. What we prohibited in the Philippines, we did them there. We lived in luxury. We toured around. We dined in fine and expensive restaurants. We watched movies. Sky's the limit when they went shopping. I decided to stay in the apartment where the minister and his family lived. Despite the insistence of ICC to stay with them, I refused. I made a lot of excuses. Sapagkat, hindi ko po natin na kaming nasa Amerika ay masyadong nagpakasasa sa paggasta sa pera na masyadong pinaghirapan ng mga kapatiran at ng mga full-time workers.
Valdeweza said she tried to leave the group twice, but they rejected her resignation both times. But when church members felt she was growing distant, they turned on her. They allegedly forced her to write a letter confessing she had been fornicating with ministers, among other sins. They also apparently sent to a mountain in Davao City for 7 months.
I was sent back here to receive a punishment through prayer and fasting in the guise of spiritual discipline. And the fasting they planned for me was beyond my imagination. It took me 7 months to suffer hunger and isolation in the mountain of Tamayong in Kalinan, Davao City. They placed me in a small, dark, elevated room beside a kitchen, separated only by a mat and walls. My bed was rough, made of uneven slabs with exposed nails pressing into my back. I was physically very weak and so depressed. I prayed that God would just take my life. Ilang beses po ako nanalangin na sana kunin na ako ng Panginoon.
10 araw na walang tubig at 10 araw na walang pagkain?
Yes po, that's true.
Paano niyo po na-survive yun?
I did not even think I would survive.
Opo.
Because of course, the place was cold. And then every time in the morning when I took a bath, so parang doon ko na lang nalalasap yung tubig. Kaya I keep taking a bath 3 times a day.
Iniinom nyo na lang yung
Halos, hindi naman mainom
tubig
kasi
pampaligo.
Another alleged sexual abuse victim and former KOJC member was Yulia Tertova, a Ukrainian who was also known as Sofia. She appeared in Senate via Zoom and testified that she was repeatedly abused by Kibuloy from 2014 to 2019. Tertova said there was even a schedule of who would sleep with Kibuloy each night.
He had the key of each room, and just in the middle of the night, he come to my room and have sex with me. Then, and you cannot run away. You cannot say I don't want, because if you say I don't want, he said you didn't overcome your flesh, and if you will not obey, you will go to hell.
Senator Risa Hontiveros, who was chairing the committee, then asked Kibuloy point blank about the allegations.
Sinexually abuse nyo ba ang mga babae at mga menor de edad?
Wala pong mga katotohanan yung kanilang mga sinasabi, kundi sa aking paningin ay kabaligtaran. Ngunit hinahamon ko po silang mag-file ng kaso sapagkat ito'y mga kriminal na mga allegations. At ito ay para maging fair, ay maghain po sila ng mag-file sila ng kaso laban sa akin o kanino mang kanilang gustong mag-file laban sa mga kingdom na leaders or members.
Kibuloy also denied the accusations that they would make children and the elderly beg for money and alms. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News. It's not just the child exploitation and sexual abuse. There was also apparently trafficking by way of sham marriages abroad. The Senate Committee on Women and Children brought out another witness, Dindo Makiling, who was the former executive director of Children's Joy Foundation in Canada. Makiling said Kibuloy would bring no less than 150 KOJC members from Davao to Canada for his evangelical tour. After the tour, the members would stay behind so they can continue to solicit money in the name of the foundation. Some would enter sham marriages so they can stay in the country legally. Makiling says he himself was forced into marrying a fellow KOJC member from Davao, whom he divorced a few short years later.
I am one of the victims of his sham marriage. I was asked to marry Maria Noralyn Barrientos because her visa is expiring. And so I got married to this person, and then I filed a divorce after those few years. This has been a modus operandi of KOJC, not only in Canada, USA, Brazil, and even in the different parts of the country, of the world, by which they want a worker from Davao to have a permanent status so that their existence there will continue to perpetuate.
The money that the members raise overseas would then allegedly be sent straight to Kibuloy's team once members hit their quotas, even without documentation. Makiling says the lack of paperwork was the reason the foundation was flagged and eventually shut down by the Canada Revenue Agency.
This is millions of dollars being collected from September to February, that is the month of blessing, aside from January to December, which is 365 days of money laundering, collecting the money from the Canadian public. Instead of giving it to the hungry people in the Philippines, they use it and send it right away to the accounts.
A few weeks ago, a key KOJC officer had already pled guilty to conspiracy charges to defraud the U.S. in exchange for a lighter sentence. In her affidavit, Marisa Duenas, an administrator of KOJC in California, admitted she and others would arrange sham marriages for KOJC members with other members who were U.S. citizens. In the plea agreement, it said KOJC raised about $20 million from 2014 to 2019 through donations to the Children's Joy Foundation. But most of the money went to paying for church leaders' luxury assets, including a Bentley, a bulletproof Cadillac Escalade, and real estate. At today's hearing, Senator Risa Ontiveros asked Kibuloy about the sham marriages.
Kayo ba yung nakaisip nung modus na piliting magpakasal yung mga miyembro nyo na hindi naman magkarelasyon para manatili sila sa ibang bansa?
This is under the investigation already. I invoke my right to remain silent.
We're going to be taking another quick break, but up next, NGOs are all pitching in to mobilize quickly for the victims of tropical or severe tropical storm Christine. The details on how to help when the big story returns. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still with us here on The Big Story.
Severe tropical storm Christine has reignited the Bayanihan spirit amongst Filipinos. As we speak, several non-government organizations are mobilizing their resources and volunteers to help the victims of flooding, particularly in the Bicol region. Here are a couple of NGOs you can send your donations to. First is the Alagang Kapatid Foundation Incorporated of our sister station TV5. We are flashing the bank accounts on your screens right now. Do take note of them. Those are peso and dollar accounts for BDO and BPI and peso account for Metrobank. All donations will go towards purchasing food and other provisions that will tide over to the flood victims as they go on the process of rebuilding. Another NGO helping those affected by Tropical Storm Christine is former Vice President Leni Robredo's Angat Buhay. They are now accepting in-kind donations like food and potable water, hygiene kits, and other essentials which can be sent to their office at 84 Cordillera Street, Santa Mesa Heights in Quezon City. All cash donations can be coursed through Kaya Natin Movement, a partner of Angat Buhay. You can use the QR code or the account details on your screen. And as of 7 p.m. tonight, good news, Kaya Natin announced that it had already raised more than 4.2 million pesos in aid.
was looking at the Facebook account of former Vice President Leni Robredo, and she did say that all the money that will be donated is handled by Kaya Natin. So parang naka-separate yung duties.
We said that we would flash the QR code, but we didn't. But so what people can do is just go straight to the Kaya Natin or Angat Buhay Facebook pages, and there you'll see the QR code or the bank account details to which you can send your donations. 4.2 million pesos, over 4.2 million pesos in aid is what they've raised. There we go. We finally have the graphic. Bangon Naga.
Actually, kagabi, parang less than 1 million yung na-raise nila. And overnight, no, it swelled up to 4.2 million. So that's good news. And they were actually very, very active on Facebook last night, calling out for help, for donations, also for rubber boats to rescue those who are
That was a
stranded on
personal
top of the
appeal,
roofs.
no, by Leni Robredo. Yung kailangan natin ng rubber boats. I think they were also asking for trucks that can go through flood waters 3 to 6 feet deep. Although may mga floods that are like 12 feet deep, and some of the barangays, yun yung nabanggit kanina ni Acting Governor Glenda.
Pero sinasabi ng PIO, no, konting pasensya lang, no, kasi the rescuers, the frontliners, they can't go because they themselves are stuck. So a little bit of patience. It's good that the rains are subsiding, moving over, papunta na sa Luzon.
Now heading towards northern Luzon, making landfall in Isabella tonight. As Brian explained to us, there are a lot of rain bands. That's the worry, right? It's consolidating, compressing all the
Because the hanging amihan, no, is blowing it from the northeast. So, magpapansin natin, westward yun. And then lalabas siya ng West Philippines. Ito talagang tatahakin niya. It's really going to pass through northern and central Luzon. So those are the areas currently under signal number 3. Actually, at 8 p.m., just right before we went to air, Pag-asa did release another bulletin. So you can access that on all their social media accounts if you're interested in knowing the particulars. Having said that, I think we're all in for a very rainy Thursday and Wednesday night.
We were actually talking about it a while ago in the newsroom, if climate change or global warming plays a factor into this, because those rain bands, those cloud bands, are formed when the temperatures are hot.
Temperatures of the ocean. And
Ocean,
so this
pati
one,
na rin yung bodies of water inland. No?
Correct.
So, dun, yun ang nagpo-form ng clouds, at yun yung dahilan kaya merong pang cloud band or rain band doon sa west na pumupunta sa may Naga, kahit nandito yung bagyo sa may east.
Right.
I mean, of course, absolutely, climate change has something to do with it. And this is something, this is my advocacy. And it's all these weather disturbances. It's already late October, and we're still bearing the brunt of a severe tropical storm. It's the same reason that there's suddenly a lot of cases of severe turbulence in, with airplanes.
Sudden air turbulence, which was confirmed to us by the CAAP.
Clear turbulence is
Clear
what they
air
call
turbulence.
it, because of the warming temperature of the Earth, of the planet, right? So whether it's up in the air or whether it's down in, on the depths of the ocean, the temperature is rising, and that's causing all of these.
Actually, this is just one
weather
record-breaking
disturbances.
something after another, right? Record-breaking rains, record-breaking rainfall. We've seen also what happened in Florida.
Wait, I was just going to say, if we could put up the 2 QR codes for the donation drives, both for Alagang Kapatid and as well as Angat Buhay, for people who are looking for, where they could donate and how they could help the victims of severe tropical storm Christine. If we could just flash those, put up those 2
QR codes
2
for the
images
donation drives,
once again for the donation drives. There we
So
go.
while everyone does that
Kapatid.
and scans the QR code, I'm just going to read out the Pag-asa 8 p.m. bulletin. So this is a tropical cyclone bulletin number 14, severe tropical storm Christine, which was issued at 8 p.m. as I said earlier. It has maintained its strength and is nearing the coastal waters of Isabella, as we heard from Elaine Fulgencio, who's in Ilagan in Isabella. It's been intermittent, strong rains and a lot of wind so far, right? Everyone is hoping that, of course, Isabella is where the Sierra Madre begins, and hoping that, once it makes landfall there, it will
Actually,
weaken
dun sa Isabella,
significantly.
sanay sila na doon pumapasok yung bagyo, no? Kaya, kumbaga parang prepared sila. Pero dito sa Maynaga, ay, yun yung kakaiba dahil medyo nasa gitna. Kumbaga, wala siya doon sa pinaka malapit sa Pacific Ocean. So, that's what caught people off guard.
And the other graphic, please, if you could just keep that up on the screen so people have time to get the details.
Yes, this is the Bago Naga fundraiser or donation drive. This is, of course, a joint effort.
And in-kind.
Yes, cash and in-kind.
In-kind donations, food packs, water, clean drinking water.
Those are the immediate needs, but we do know this is a long bout. Residents would have to rebuild their homes. Especially those that were inundated until the first floor, until almost the roofs, right?
What I'm really waiting for is how much more areas will need this kind of help by tomorrow. I mean, not that I'm eagerly awaiting it, but I'm kind of dreading hearing
Tinitignan
how
natin
much worse it
yung
could be.
trajectory ng cloud bands na yun eh. Parang 2 p.m., it is right on top of Quezon City. So dito sa may NCR. So pag ganun yung rain bands, mapunta siya sa Metro Manila. That's why so many flights are also canceled.
Actually, if we see the outer rain band, so yung nakikita nating red, yellow na parang thing on the satellite image, I think we have it right here. Yan talaga yung may dalang ulan eh. Right now, it's
Yung
running
mga
the forecast.
green,
Yellow,
yellow
so yung
at
red,
yung red.
yung pinakamalakas na mga pag-ulan, yung areas where the red is. Tapos orange, yellow, green, pahina. As you go towards the outer rain bands. But as we can see, we can see the big cloud on the Pacific Ocean on the right side, as well as on the left side. So yun yung sinasabi kanina ni Brian from Pag-asa na kinukwento nga nila na ganito karami ang mararanasan nating pag-ulan bukas.
We did just have the disaster, Asia Pacific Ministerial Disaster Risk
Just
Conference,
last week.
right?
They're
Just last
lucky
week.
they missed it by just this. They missed this tropical storm by just a few days. But that would have been a bit poetic as well.
But you know what's funny? We have all these countries coming to the Philippines trying to study how we respond to disaster. And sinasabi nga nila that we already have a system in place to prevent, to prepare, to respond instead of being reactive. We're proactive now compared to the rest of the world.
I don't think we have much
More,
Malaki
but
ng progress
still,
natin kahit papaano.
right.
But
But
it's
still,
like we're trying to outpace-
we're still getting caught off guard, as we heard some of the residents say, because we are not prepared for this kind of climate change impacts.
Well, that's
right?
because,
55 highest amount of rainfall in 55 years. That's pretty disturbing.
Because we're breaking records.
Yeah, since
in the worst way
1969.
possible, not the good records too.
Okay. So before we say goodbye, I think I'm sorry we could not reach out to Rafi Magno of Angat Buhay Foundation. I think he's very, very busy right now, and we
Also,
were
the
unable
signal
to
is
connect.
still a bit weak in places. I guess he would be in Naga.
Definitely,
And
like
he-
up here with work.
He did post on Facebook that we lost everything to
A lot of residents.
this typhoon, and I think he was talking about his home back in Naga City. So they have a lot of work to do, a lot of donations to collect
So
and to give out.
Try to get him tomorrow if we could.
All right, so before we say goodbye, here's our big picture for tonight. A little bit of politics, just a little bit, I promise, on this gloomy day. And it is challenge accepted. Davao City Representative Paulo Pulong Duterte and PBA Party List Representative Migs Nograles both underwent a hair follicle drug test today. Duterte said he decided to take the test again due to repeated allegations connecting him to illegal drugs. On Tuesday, Migs Nograles challenged Pulong Duterte to take a new drug test, saying that the result he initially shared was from August. Meanwhile, Nograles decided to take her own test after Duterte challenged her to do the same. The two are facing off next year to become 1st District Representative of Davao City.
That's quite unusual.
Well,
On a day that we're
everyone's
plagued by
been
storms,
challenging
right?
everybody else.
They each went to their diagnostic labs.
Okay,
to get a
let's
hair
clarify
follicle
that
test.
Migs Nograles, apparently she had hers done in Davao City, which actually has pretty good weather today. That's the only part, I think, of the country that has seen fair weather on this Wednesday.
Still, challenge accepted.
So it remains to be seen, the challenge that
Oh wait,
Sara
we gotta
Duterte
wait
threw
for the
out.
results. We gotta wait for the results. 2 weeks now for the hair follicle test.
And there's no way to cheat that hair follicle test, apparently.
Well, that is the storm of politics here in
That
the
is the
Philippines.
storm. That is a different kind of storm.
And that one is not exiting the country anytime soon. On that note, that's it for the big story on this Wednesday night.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night and stay dry.